song from Robert Randolph. All right, go with Grace. People out there, today is February 4th, and it's another great episode of Go with Grace. This is season 2, episode 2, talking about the law of curiosity. So, we're talking about the law of curiosity, which says growth is stimulated by asking why. Now, if you ask my wife, she will get mad because she hates when I ask why. She can't stand that, but still, curiosity is a way to grow. So, George Bernard Shaw said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. Other others dream that others dream that never were and ask why not." May we all learn to dream like that and ask those kinds of productive, life-changing curiosities. So last week's show, we could have talked about, uh, or I did talk about, um, would you believe? So that was good. I said in my Facebook, when I shared on my Facebook page, you could have subtitled it, Would You Believe? We talked about a lot of funny things. We talked about the pirate Captain Morgan who captured Panama City from the Spanish defenders in 1671. The funniest thing about that, I even got some comments from my friends about the silly VeggieTales song I played, The Pirates Who Don't Do Anything. So thank you, Daniel. For that comment. I'm glad I got that song stuck in your head. So may it stay stuck in your head this week too. So if you guys didn't catch that, catch the replay. We also talked about a Bigfoot sighting on the Washington State Department of Transportation website. So that was a last minute thing I found about when I was just coming into the radio station and kind of read the posting of the article, but actually watched the Twitter feed where they had the video posted. The funniest thing about that is that I said, would you believe that? Another Bigfoot sighting. And to me, look, he had a diaper on, so I doubt that that was a Bigfoot, just somebody out messing around in the snow. And what else? We talked about the Auschwitz survivors' return for the 75th liberation of the death camps there back in January 27th of 1945. And then I realized before I talked about that and read some of the interviews that the people that had survived that had, I played a song because I was also doing a tribute to Rush last week. I continued from Neil Peart's death in January, and I played Rush Red Sector A. It's kind of a synchronicity slash my subconscious mind kicking in gear because I didn't realize it other than the fact that I wanted to play an awesome Rush song. And that is an awesome song. And but I realized after the show was over that Geddy Lee wrote that in tribute to his parents who survived the Nazi death camps. And when they moved to Canada, they made it a point to make sure that him and none of his siblings ever forgot the tragedy that happened because of that. So we too should endeavor not to forget and to know our history and not repeat it, especially things like that. Let's see what else. I want to share with you something I've kind of alluded to, but I'm participating in a 90-day mentorship challenge with the organization I've talked about before, Movement 21 by Tuan Nguyen and April Hawley, and they started this challenge. It's their first time doing it, so it's a 90-day challenge, a mentorship challenge. But part of the challenge is for aspiring authors. That's always been something I've kicked around and said for years, probably over 10 years, told myself and others, I'm going to write a book about my deployment to Iraq with the Liberty Sappers forever. And I have several journals and notes, and I've even texted and messaged some of my fellow comrades about contributing to it, but never actually got around to doing it. So this challenge appealed to me because it basically forces you to get off your butt and start writing. So the first part of the 90-day challenge was to write a chapter for a book that's going to be published called Dominate the Decade. And so I'm going to be one of the featured authors in this book of about 10 or 11 other authors. And so I'm excited. And again, it's also forcing me to overcome my growth edge and my shortcomings of procrastination because for various reasons, I had a lot going on in January and procrastinated writing my chapter, but I got to it the last week before it was due. So it was due last Friday to go to the editor. And so Tuan and I got on the phone and had a coaching call, and he really helped me out to help narrow down my focus because I started writing, but I didn't feel like it was really the direction I was going for our book to dominate the decade. So he gave me some pointers, and so I got my chapter written in about 2 or 3 days thanks to his help narrowing down my focus. And man, I have to tell you, I was so excited. I haven't been this excited since I was deployed or since I knew I was called to be an Army chaplain. So I kind of think this idea and this desire in me has been there for a while, and it's usually come forth in my writing, and I incorporate poetry in my ministry, especially in the military. So I've written lots of poems, not as much as my father, who's also a poet, but I've probably written over 100 poems, and several years ago I started incorporating my ministry, so I would write poems for retirement ceremonies and tailor it to the soldiers that were retiring in our unit, or for an invocation or benediction or an occasion, I would write a funny poem for the occasion. So it got to the point where I just did it once or twice, and then the soldiers started expecting it, so I had to keep doing it. It's like, the next group of guys retiring. We were like, Chaplain, we expect to have a poem for us too. So, but it started the creative juices in me writing, and then writing this week for my chapter, which is basically titled my power statement. The chapter is about grace for your race. I won't go into a whole lot of detail because I want you to buy the book, but the whole process of writing really encouraged me, and it felt awesome to get tapped into something I've always wanted to do. And I'm telling you that my muse was on overdrive this week. And when I woke up, I guess it was Friday night, Saturday morning, after submitting my chapter to Tuan in April, I was like, man, I was up all night till like 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about other ideas, and just my creative juices were flowing. And I actually woke up at 3 and started emailing myself some ideas. I already, like, my creative juices were flowing, so I already basically came up with another title for another idea for another book about sea stories, life lessons from sea stories. So those of you who don't know, my father, if you know me, you know my father. He's a maritime master mariner. He was a graduate of Kings Point Merchant Marine Academy, and he sailed around the world and was a ship captain for several years. And he has sea stories to talk all night and all day. He's got countless sea stories he's told myself and my children, and told lots of people. He's a great storyteller. You can actually, it's funny to watch him because you see in his eyes and his face when he tries to tell the same story and add to it or make it up, but he tells a great story. And one of the things, I incorporated one of his stories about navigating on the seas in my chapter, so that got me thinking, well, why don't I just do a whole book about that, because he has countless stories that I want to incorporate and capture for eternity, for myself and also for my children and grandchildren as they get older, and so I can save that for them. So I'm going to videotape him and record him telling the stories and then draw some life lessons out of it. So I say all that just to encourage you that whatever dream you have in your heart and your mind and your spirit, to step out of your comfort zone and find a way to start putting action to those dreams. That's what I'm doing, and I encourage you to do that yourself. I know it's risky, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about some today, about curiosity. One of the suggestions I have for you is to get out of your box and take some risks and step out of your comfort zone. So I want to share about that. What else? Talked about that. I was just getting excited. Like, I was calculating the amount of time it took me to write that chapter, about a week. So I'm just excited. I was thinking, well, if I got to do the math, I can probably write realistically at least 3, maybe 4 books a year once I get into the rhythm. And I expect there's going to be some failures and setbacks, and I've written one chapter like I'm an expert now, right? But this is just getting my toes in the water and but I'm excited to where the path is going to lead me. I know it's going to lead to great things, and eventually I will publish my own book and then continue to write books and learn in the process. And however they turn out is great. I'll let the market and you guys, my audience, decide where I go. But I'll speak and write from the heart and write it in a way that hope encourages you. And let's see. Woke up one morning and tell you about my story. Just talked about that. So again, I just hope that it inspires you to jump with both feet and get out of your comfort zone. My mentor, Paul Martinelli says, jump and build your wings on the way down. So I encourage you to do that. And speaking of my mentor, Paul Martinelli, he runs an organization and a website and a mentoring group called Empowerment Living with Roddy, his partner. But I want to invite you to check out a free study he's doing right now on Facebook. It started January 31st, but if you jump on today, you can still catch it if you do it quickly. So he's doing a study of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And you can get signed up at TAGR2020.com. So Think and Grow Rich, abbreviated TAGR2020.com. And he has written a companion book based on Napoleon Hill. He studied it for a long time. His mentor led him to read that book, and how he talks about how it transformed his life. And but he wrote a companion book called The Missing Chapters, basically talking about love, forgiveness, and tithing. And on top of that, he says many people are teaching success principles, and many of them are really good. But if you leave the spiritual component out, it's incomplete. So that's what his goal is by writing this other part. And so we are going to go through the text of Think and Grow Rich, and through the website you can download a digital copy of it, so you don't have to purchase anything. There's an option to upgrade and get access to all the material. A lifetime access, but if you get in and stay diligent each day to listen to the content and read it, you can do it without spending any money. Another awesome aspect of the study is that he's partnered with Josh Finley, a pastor and college professor on theology, who wrote another companion book, a biblical companion to Think and Grow Rich. So he looks at it from a biblical standpoint, which I really like. I just bought it. It came in the mail yesterday, so I'm looking forward to looking at that and applying that to my life, and hopefully bring some insights I gained from the study, especially from the biblical standpoint. So that's that. And today we're gonna switch to Today in History. So I gotta play the background music for this because. So a little Patton movie theme song background, because this day in 1970, Patton, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, and starring George C. Scott, premieres in New York, and it won an Academy Award in 1971 for Best Picture. Okay, also today in history, in 1789, the first U.S. Electoral College chooses George Washington as president and John Adams as vice president. In 2004, you guys know what happened today? Because of it, you're watching this show. Mark Zuckerberg launched his Facebook website from his Harvard dorm room today in 2004. So that's a pretty cool aspect of Today in History. And then I know you've probably already heard today, as this is February, Black History Month, and today is the anniversary of Rosa Parks, the civil rights activist. In December 1st, Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to move to the back of a bus and give her seat to a white passenger in Montgomery, Alabama. December 5th, the historic bus boycott begins in Montgomery, Alabama by Rosa Parks. So she is commemorated today as part of Black History Month. She is called the First Lady of Civil Rights and the Mother of the Freedom Movement. Her refusal to give up her seat on the bus to a white passenger became an important symbol of modern civil rights movement. She became an international icon of resistance to racial segregation, and she was born on February 4th, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama. And then we have, well, not this actual date, but on February 2nd of 1863, so 2 days ago and many years ago, this marks the first article written by a very influential author. After failing to strike it rich, prospecting for gold and silver, an enterprising young American wrote a humorous travel story for the Territorial Enterprise on February 2nd, 1863. A newspaper serving Virginia City, Nevada. He was Samuel Longhorn Clemens, and the pen name he chose to use for that time was Mark Twain. By his mid-30s, he had become one of the most popular writers in America, and with novels such as Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, his fame was to spread worldwide. A great storyteller both in print and in real life, his distinctive narrative style was funny, irreverent, often satirical, and he always took delight in deflating those puffed up with their own self-importance. Like Oscar Wilde, Mark Twain was a master of the epigram and delivered memorable lines such as this: "Do the right thing. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. It is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. All you need in this life is ignorance and confidence. Then success is sure. Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." Clemens was born in 1835, the sixth child of a poverty-stricken family, which moved when he was 4 years old to Hannibal, a bustling Missouri town on the banks of the Mississippi. But when he was just 12, Clemens' father died, plunging the family into virtual destitution. He became an apprentice printer at the Hannibal Courier, but received no pay, just food. Things improved 3 years later when he got a job as a printer and part-time editor and writer at the Hannibal Western Union. But Clemens temporarily abandoned newspapers in 1857 when at age 21 he was taken on as a cub pilot aboard a steamboat. It was a dream he had nurtured for years as he watched the whistle-tooting vessels call 3 times a day at Hannibal. 2 years later, he was a qualified pilot and immensely enjoying his highly paid work plying the shoals and channels of the great river. Sadly for him, but fortunately for literature, it was not to last. The Civil War broke out in 1861, and civilian traffic on the river was stopped. So that year, he boarded a stagecoach and headed for Nevada and California, hoping to find a vein of gold or silver. He failed, and in 1861, needing a job, he became a reporter on the Territorial Enterprise. There, he began churning out news stories and sketches, adopting his now celebrated pen name, derived from a call on the riverboats when measuring the depth of the water. It was considered that a steamboat needed a depth of 12 feet for safe passage, and this was represented by the second mark on a line thrown overboard to gauge the river depth. When the safety mark was indicated, the call, "Mark Twain, Mark II," was shouted out. Another of Mark Twain's epigrams decreed that there are basically two types of people: people who accomplish things and people who claim to have accomplished things. The first group is less crowded. Samuel Clemens certainly belonged to the group of people who accomplish things. Just before he died, he wrote, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt. Now there are two unaccountable freaks. They came in together and they must go out together." His wish was granted. Clemens died of a heart attack on the day after the comet appeared at its brightest in 1910. Okay, and the next thing we have is jokes. Let's take a quick music break and we'll get into some political jokes. We all need some of those, right? So Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Hello there, my old friend. Not so long ago, Mr. Man, we
All right, that wasn't Life by the Drop, so let's switch to the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
I'm itching, and I don't know where to scratch. Come on, baby. Baby, scratch my back. I know you can do it. So, baby, get to it. Oh, you make me feel so good. That's right. Now we're doing the chicken scratch. Oh, I'm itching, and I don't know where to scratch. Come on, baby. Baby, scratch my back. I know you can do it. So, baby, get to it.
All right, now in honor of Iowa caucus last night that seemed to turn out to be a bit of a fiasco. We still don't even know what the numbers are yet. What a mess when politicians get involved in our daily lives. I'll try to keep it nonpartisan though, okay? So here's some jokes I got for you and some quotes. Some jokes and some quotes. Um, let's see, this is I'm not surprised, but what for? This is President Franklin D. Roosevelt said this when told by his secretary that his wife, Eleanor, was in prison. She was actually there to visit and speak with prisoners. So I thought that was funny. Here's another one. Stop your nonsense and drink your whiskey. That was Zachary Taylor when it was suggested that he consider a run for president. He did it anyway. He did it anyway and became the 12th U.S. president, serving only a year and a half before dying in office. And I'm sure whiskey had nothing to do with that. This is a good quote from Margaret Thatcher. There are some remarkable parallels between basketball and politics. Michael Jordan has already mastered the skill most needed for political success: how to stay aloft without visible means of support. I like that. That's good. And the next one is good. This is a definition of alliance. In international politics, the union of two thieves who have their hands so deeply inserted in each other's pockets that they cannot separately plunder a third. I thought that was awesome. So I'll save some other ones for later. Before we get into our content of the law of curiosity, I encourage you to check out Think and Grow Rich study by Paul and Roddy. And again, that website is tagr2020.com, tagr2020.com. So these are some notes I took from the first 2 days of Facebook videos they posted. It says, what do you believe God wants to release in your life? And we operate from a learned model, the way we do anything. These learning models of failure and learning models of achievement are what we operate by. And they're held together by three things: our level of awareness, our beliefs, and our understanding and application of whichever model we operate by, a model of failure or a model of achievement. So I wanted to leave that out to you. One of the powerful quotes from Napoleon Hill from his book is, every man is what he is because of the dominating thoughts which he permits to occupy his mind. And then a quote from Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And thoughts are things, they take up real estate in our minds. And your limiting beliefs will keep you in mediocrity. Start thinking about how you think and journal your thoughts. Allow the Holy Spirit to do a holy audit on this issue of your self-awareness and your thinking. So that's a little bit about what we're doing with the Think and Grow Rich study in the next couple of weeks. So now we're going to talk about the law of curiosity. If you want to keep growing and developing, you must keep on learning. Curious people possess a thirst for knowledge. They are interested in life, people, ideas, experiences, and events, and they live in constant state of wanting to learn more. They continually ask why. Curiosity is the primary catalyst for self-motivating people. People who remain curious don't need to be encouraged to ask questions or explore. They just do it all the time. And they keep doing it. They know that the trail of discovery is just as exciting as the discoveries themselves, because they are wonderful things to be learned along the way. Curiosity helps a person to think and expand possibilities beyond the ordinary. Asking why fires the imagination. It leads to discovery. It opens up options. It takes people beyond the ordinary and leads to extraordinary living. People say not to cross a bridge until you come to it, but as someone once said, this world is owned by people who have crossed bridges in their imagination before anyone else has. I believe that that's why Nobel Peace Prize winning physicist, award-winning physicist Albert Einstein said, all meaningful and lasting change starts first in your imagination and then works its way out. Einstein made his discoveries because he was a curious person, and he valued his curious nature and imagination as his greatest qualities. So what I'm going to do now is share with you a couple of suggestions on how to cultivate curiosity in your life. Number one, believe that you can be curious. Many people fill their minds with limiting beliefs, as I talked about earlier in my notes from Think and Grow Rich. Their lack of personal confidence or self-esteem causes them to create barriers for themselves, and it puts limitations on how and what they think. The result, they fail to reach their full potential, not because they lack the capacity, but because They are unwilling to expand their beliefs and break new ground. We cannot perform outwardly in a way that is inconsistent with how we think inwardly. You cannot be what you believe you aren't. But here's the good news. You can change your thinking, and as a result, you can change your life. So give yourself permission to be curious. The single greatest difference between curious, growing people and those who aren't is the belief that they can grow and learn and change. As the law of intentionality says, you must go after growth. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom will not seek you out. You must go out and acquire it. The best way to do it is to remain curious. So another suggestion to cultivate your curiosity is to have a beginner's mindset. The way you approach life and learning has nothing to do with your age, and thank God for that. It has everything to do with your attitude. Having a beginner's mindset means wondering why and asking a lot of questions until you get the answers. It also means being open and vulnerable. If your attitude is like that of a beginner, you have no image to uphold. And your desire to learn more is stronger than your desire to look good. People with a beginner's mindset approach life the way that a child does, with curiosity. They are like the little girl who kept asking her mother question after question. Finally, the mother cried, "For heaven's sake, stop asking me so many questions. Curiosity killed the cat." After 2 minutes of thinking, the child thought to herself, then looked around and asked, "So what did the cat want to know?" I love that little story. The direct opposite of people who have a beginner's mindset are the know-it-alls. They see themselves as experts. They have a lot of knowledge, education, and experience. So instead of asking why and starting to listen, they start talking and giving answers. Anytime a person is answering more than they are asking, you can be sure they've slowed down their growth and have lost the fire for personal improvement. Here's another suggestion. Make why your favorite word. Albert Einstein said the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. Never lose a holy curiosity. The secret of maintaining that holy curiosity is to always keep asking why. Speaker and author Brian Tracy says, "A major stimulant to creative thinking is focused questions. There is something about a well-worded question that often penetrates the heart of the matter and triggers new ideas and insights. Anyone who knows all the answers is not asking the right questions." Another suggestion I have for you is to learn something new every day. One of the best ways to remain curious is to begin each day with the determination to learn something new, experience something different, or meet someone you don't already know. Doing this requires three things. First, you must wake up with an attitude of openness to something new. You must see the day as having multiple opportunities to learn. And second, you must keep your eyes and ears open as you go through the day. Most unsuccessful people accept their day, tuning things out, simply hoping to endure it. But most successful people seize their day. Growing people remain focused, yet maintain a sensitivity and awareness that opens them up to new experiences. And the third component is reflection. It does little good to see something new without taking time to think about it. It does no good to hear something new if you're not going to apply it to your life. Remember, I've said it before in other episodes, that experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is. That's why I highly encourage you to plan your day in the morning and reflect on your day in the evening. And thus another reason why you need to be journaling. so you can record and capture these lessons that you learn each day. And the next suggestion is to take part in the fruit of failure. A curious growing person approaches failure in a way completely different from someone who isn't curious. Most people see failure, mistakes, and errors as a sign of weakness. When they fail, they say, I'll never do that again. But people who grow and develop see failure as a sign of progress. They know that it is impossible to continually try without sometimes failing. It's part of the curiosity journey. Therefore, they make failure their friend. When failure is your friend, you don't ask, how can I distance myself from this experience? Instead, you ask, why did this happen? What can I learn? And how can I grow from this? As a result, you fail fast, you learn fast, and you get to try again fast. That leads to growth and future success. Another suggestion I have for you to cultivate a curiosity mindset is to stop looking for the right answer. There is always more than one answer, one solution to a problem. If you believe there's only one single right solution, you either get frustrated because you can't find it, or you think you have found it and you stop searching and perhaps miss even better ideas. In addition, when you land on what you consider to be the right answer, you become complacent. No idea is perfect. No matter how good it is, it can always be improved. You probably heard the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That phrase definitely was not coined by someone dedicated to personal growth. If that has been your mindset in the past, then I suggest you develop a questioner's mindset instead and replace the popular phrase with the following questions. If it ain't broke, how can we make it better? If it ain't broke, when is it likely to break in the future? And if it ain't broke, how long will it serve as the world changes? People with curiosity keep asking questions, and as a result, they keep learning. Roger Van Oech, O-E-C-H, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I even looked it up. Didn't see anything that pronounced it. But Robert Van Oech, he's the author of A Whack on the Side of the Head, says almost every advance in art, cooking, medicine, agriculture, engineering, marketing, politics, education, and design has occurred when someone challenged the rules and tried another approach. If you want to avoid growing too comfortable and becoming stagnant, then keep asking questions and challenging the process. Keep asking if there is a better way to do things. Will that annoy complacent and lazy people? You bet it will. But will it energize, challenge, and inspire growing people? For sure it will. The next suggestion I have for you to cultivate a curiosity mindset is to get over yourself. If you're going to ask questions and allow yourself to fail, then you will at times look foolish. Most people don't like that. Do you know what my response is? Get over yourself. As Roger Van Oech says, if we never try anything that might make us look ridiculous, we'd still be in caves. And another way I recommend you cultivate curiosity is to get out of the box. So I've talked to you a lot about get out of your comfort zone, so this is a lot of what get out of your box is all about. I've always loved the quote by the inventor Thomas Edison who says, "There ain't no rules around here, we're trying to accomplish something." I'm not sure if he had an accent like that, but it drives the point home. Edison was forever trying to innovate, to think outside the box. Most revolutionary ideas were disruptive violations of existing rules. They upset the old order. And as Ralph Waldo Emerson said, all life is an experiment. The more experience you make, the better. I value innovative thinking, and I am easily frustrated by people who refuse to think outside of their self-imposed boxes. When people say things like, we've never done it that way before, or that's not my job, I just want to shake them up. I want to offer to do their funeral because they're already died and are obviously just waiting for someone to confirm the fact. Good ideas are everywhere, but it's hard to see them when you won't look outside of your own box. Instead of remaining confined, people need to break down the walls of their boxes, get out, and become hunters of ideas. And the last suggestion I have for you to cultivate a curiosity mindset is to enjoy your life. Perhaps the greatest way to remain curious and keep growing is to enjoy your life. Tom Peters, author of In Search of Excellence, observed, "The race will go to the curious, the slightly mad, and those with an unsatiated passion for learning and daredeviltry." I love that, daredeviltry. I believe it honors God when we enjoy life and live it well. This means taking risks, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, but always learning. When you enjoy your life, the lines between work and play begin to blur. We do what we love and we love what we do. Everything becomes a learning experience. I just want to repeat that quote from Tom Peters because I just love that word, daredeviltry. The race will go to the curious, the slightly mad, or the completely mad, and those with an unsatiated passion for learning and daredeviltry. So may you seek to honor God with your talents and your curiosity and embrace the daredeviltry, because I know that I sure do, and I don't like being embarrassed, but I don't have a problem getting out of my comfort zone, and this show is a perfect example of that. So I hope you guys were encouraged by that content on the law of curiosity. We'll take a quick break and hear a song, and then we'll get back to some other content and some good political jokes.
There once was a musical troupe, a pickin' singing folk group. They sang the mountain ballads and the folk songs of our land. They were long on musical ability, folks thought they would go far, but political incompatibility led to their downfall. Well, the one on the right was on the left, and the one in the middle was on the right, and the one on the left was in the middle, and the guy in the rear was a Methodist. This musical aggregation toured the entire nation, singing traditional ballads and the folk songs of our land. They performed with great virtuosity, and soon they were the rage, but political animosity prevailed upon the stage. Well, the one on the right was on the left, and the one in the middle was on the right, and the one on the left was in the middle, and the guy in the rear burned his driver's license. Well, the curtain had ascended, a hush fell on the crowd, as thousands there were gathered to hear the folk songs of our land. But they took their politics seriously, and that night at the concert hall, as the audience watched deliriously, they had a free-for-all. Well, the one on the right was on the bottom, and the one in the middle was on the top, and the one on the left got a broken arm, and the guy on his rear said, "Oh dear." Now this should be a lesson if you plan to start a folk group. Don't go mixing politics with the folk songs of our land. Just work on harmony and diction, play your banjo well, and if you have political conviction, keep them to yourself. Now the one on the left works in a bank and the one in the middle drives a truck. The one on the right's an all-night DJ and the guy in the rear got drafted.
All right, how's that for a good song? Johnny Cash singing about the left and the right. We're going to go ahead and mix it up and talk about politics by telling some more good jokes. So, assuming either the left wing or the right wing gained control of the country, it would probably fly around in circles. All right, I told you one about the alliance. That was good. It says politicians in diapers have one thing in common. They should both be changed regularly and for the same reason. I like that one too. Let's see. A rich man told me recently that a liberal is a man who tells other people what to do with their money. And this one is good. This comes from Alfred E. Newman, the fictional mascot and cover boy of Mad Magazine. Crime does not pay, as well as politics. And democracy is the art of running the circus from the monkey cage. And the art of politics consists in knowing precisely when it is necessary to hit an opponent slightly below the belt. So I think that was all that I had that were good ones. Some of these aren't that funny. Said the consensus after the election is that 100% of Americans think 50% of Americans have lost their minds. That can definitely be said today because we are definitely a divided nation politically. But hey, won't go any bit further. With the last couple of minutes I have, I want to read from Proverbs chapter 4. So I've said this before and shared with you, one of the best ways to get wisdom is to read the book of Proverbs. I encourage my soldiers to do it as a way of devotion and time with God in the mornings or the evenings or wherever you can have it, because it's easy to do. Whatever day of the week it is. Today's February 4th, so you turn to Proverbs 4 and read it. So I'm just going to read it to you guys. Some of it has a lot to do with what we're talking about, wisdom and personal growth and our mindset and what we put into our mind and where we get our information from and what we believe. So Proverbs chapter 4, security and wisdom. Hear, my children, the instruction of a father. Give attention to know understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Do not forsake my law. When I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the sight of my mother, he also taught me and said to me, let your heart retain my words. Keep my commands and live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will preserve you. Love her, and she will keep you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she will promote you. She will bring you honor when you embrace her. She will place on your head an ornament of grace. A crown of glory she will deliver to you. Hear, my son, and receive my sayings. And the years of your life will be many. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in right paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hindered, and when you run, you will not stumble. Take firm hold of instruction. Do not let go. Keep her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn away from it and pass on. For they do not sleep unless they have done evil, and their sleep is taken away unless they make someone fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is like the shining sun, that shines ever brighter until the perfect day. The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. My son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your eyes. Keep them in the midst of your heart. For they are life to those who find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look straight ahead, and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil. So that wraps up our show for the day, everyone, on this wonderful GQ Radio Day. And I thank you for listening to Go With Grace today as we talked about the law of curiosity. So take a listen again when you get a chance this week and remind yourself of those ways. I encourage you to cultivate a mindset of curiosity. And when you get a chance sometime today, check out the Think and Grow Rich study that Paul and Roddy are doing at Empowerment Living. You can find their website on yourempoweredlife.com, but the study is found at tagr2020.com. And when you get on there, I'm on the private group, so look for me, Joe Grace, and send me a message or tag me, and I'd like to connect with you and hope that you guys take advantage of this great teaching. So I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Have an awesome week. I pray for you and wish God's blessings upon everything that you do and that you may be prosperous. God bless you guys.